All right.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Hey, can you hear me okay and see me?
Turn the volume up a little bit.
I think it just goes through the computer if it's up all the way.
We may have to be quiet when Ash is talking. So say something, Ash.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me on that side? See me? Excellent. That is cool. That's cool to be Skyping into you guys. I'm here in China. It's 10 o'clock at night. I've just finished the presentation. Got back to my hotel room from a small city southwest of Dali of China. Skyping into you guys now. So that is cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ash. I'm Russell from News-O-Matic. We're here with the 6th grade class at MS 181 in the Bronx, New York City. We're thrilled to chat with you today.
Definitely. How's it going there? What's the what time is it there now? It's 9 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes.
So it's the first lesson of the day.
Yes.
That's awesome. And have you guys been keeping updated with the journey so far?
Yeah.
Great stuff. I'm now more in a signal area. I'm now down away from the sub-zero temperatures. I've been avoiding many bears, many wolves, many Tibetan mastiffs, which are big guard dogs, which guard the families of their gurs, which is kind of like a white felt tent. So I'm now down in safer terrain. It's more tropical here. You know, I've traded the bears and wolves for the snakes and spiders, so I've still got to stay alert and stay vigilant. But I'm now here resting for the next week or two before I continue with Mission Yangtze, and I'll send you guys some more updates.
Yeah, they've read all of your articles so far. We were looking forward to another feature, but maybe we'll even do an article about this conversation. What do you think about that, guys? A whole article about this Skype session with Ash on either this morning or this night, depending on what part of the world you're at. So, Ash, they have a lot of questions for you. Maybe we should just launch into ask some questions. What do you say?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Fire away any questions you guys have. If you want to know more, let me know, and I'll answer.
Wonderful. And guys, here's what I suggest that we do. Look, we'll raise our hand. I'll call on folks. Maybe say your name, just your first name, and maybe your age, so that Ash knows who you are, and it's part of the article. Does that work for everybody? All right. Well, you're closest here, so why don't you start? You can go ahead and say your first name, your age. You can maybe stand up so you can project. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Max Nunez, and I am 10 years old. I've got a total of 10 questions here.
Start with one back.
Okay, sorry. How did you pass the biggest yak?
How did I pass the biggest yak? Was that?
Yeah.
We talk Chinese firecrackers. So it's firecrackers that once you light it with a lighter, it makes a big bang, 2 loud bangs, in fact. And one time we were in our tent and a wild yak was getting very close to the horse, to our horse, which was carrying the equipment. And the wild yak can sometimes be brutal. They've even been known to kill horses. So we had to get out of our tent at 2 o'clock in the morning and set off this loud fat Chinese firecracker, which created a big bang, and the yaks ran away. The next morning we could continue walking past them.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing, guys. How cool is that? All right, let's maybe we'll come back to your questions. Let's everyone have a turn here, okay?
Okay.
All right, why don't you go ahead and text everybody. Stand up, say your name.
My name is Anthony. I'm 10 years old. What kind of food have you tried?
What kind of food have I tried? Was that?
Yes.
I have eaten a lot of food. I have eaten tarantula, snake, squirrel in the jungles of the Burmese hill tribe. This is just in general now. But on the mission itself, I've eaten a lot of Tibetan food. So because it's so extreme up here in the Tibetan plateau, we're talking 5,500 meters high, which is about the same height as Mount Everest base camp. So they need a lot of heavy food, a lot of high calorific, high protein food. So they eat a lot of yak. They eat a lot of dairy products like cheese and yogurt. So it's very high calorific food that I've been eating to help me along my journey. because I've been covering about 20 miles a day, but carrying a rucksack which weighs 35 kilograms. So I've gone skinnier, I've lost a bit of weight, but I try to eat as much of this calorific food as I can during the process.
Great question. Good question in the background here. What's your name?
My name is Aiden. I am 11 years old. My question is, why did the cops stop you?
Yes, good question. Well, the police stopped me because they were worried for my safety. You know, they said this is very dangerous terrain you're walking along. You know, there's a lot of dangerous wildlife, to include wolves and bears. There's barely any people. It's 5,000 plus meters, and it's extremely cold. So they were actually really worried for my safety. And on occasions, they would take me into their police station and they would question me. But once they realized that I'm a professional, you know, this is what I do and what I have been doing for almost 10 years, they very quickly took me back to the same location as they picked me up, and actually wished me well on my journey. And they're actually following the journey now on my Chinese social media channels.
Serena Sewer, please report to Mr. Medina's office now. Serena Sewer.
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
Make sure are you in the screen here? Make sure Ash can see.
And my question was, did you ever think about turning back?
Did you hear that, Ash?
Can you say that again, please?
My name is Abigail, and I asked if you ever thought about turning back.
Good question. Yeah, there's been a few occasions on different expeditions that I've had to turn back for a couple of days on myself. There's never been a time where I thought I don't want to do this anymore, or never been a time that I thought, right, I need to quit. But there has been times where either the jungles in Madagascar has been so difficult, literally impenetrable, just carrying a big machete, hacking my way through the bush, that sometimes we just couldn't continue and we had to turn back. And with this mission, I was actually, once I reached the source of the Yangtze River, my Tibetan guide, had got altitude sickness. So he was actually bleeding from the nose. He was vomiting. And it got to a point where it got too serious and I had to take him off the mountains, which meant that I had to also come off the mission. And then once he was back safely with his family, I went back up to the source to carry on with Mission Yangtze. So yes, I have had to turn back on a few occasions, but then I always pick myself back up, get myself back to the same location, and keep pushing on no matter what.
Great question. Let's go to the second one.
Yeah.
My name is Anaya, and my question is, did you have any injuries when you were on your trip?
Did I have any injuries on this one? I would say the only injuries I've had, small minor injuries, are blisters from all of the walking, 25 miles. So I would say just blisters, but it's a case of putting plasters over, taping up your feet, and, enjoying the rest, the much needed rest when you can, letting your body to heal before pushing on again. But previous expeditions, yes, I've been bitten by spiders. I've caught malaria, which I had to rid out of my system. I've faced many difficult, very painful injuries during various expeditions, for sure.
We'll stay up here and then we'll go.
My question was, when you and your crew had to go back, how long was your guys' break?
Sorry, say that again.
When you and your crew got sick, how long did you guys take a break?
Did you hear that, Ash?
Yeah, difficult to hear that one, sorry.
There's a little bit of noise here.
When you and your crew got sick, how long did you guys take a break?
Okay, I think I got that. When me and my guys got sick, how long were we off the mission for?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the first camera crew got altitude sickness, so they didn't actually make it to the source of the Yangtze, which meant that there was still a driver with us, so we could send them back. So I didn't need to leave. With the guide who I had to send back to the city when I went with him, I wasn't sick, so fortunately I could go straight back to the expedition and continue once I knew he was in safe hands. So far, touch wood, I haven't had to stay off the mission or leave the mission due to my own injuries or sickness. I've not been sick or injured yet, so touch wood, it keeps going that way.
Let's go to the front row here. Start over here. What's your name?
My name is Maxella. I'm 11 years old, and my question is: have you ever came to any near-death experience on your trip?
Yeah, another good question. I have. There was a time in Mongolia when I was crossing the whole length of Mongolia, which is about 1,500 miles. It was a 78-day expedition, and I was pulling a trailer that weighed 120 kilograms, which is the same weight as a baby elephant, or the same weight as two grown men. So it was very difficult to pull it through the Altai Mountains, the Gobi Desert, and on one stint in the Gobi Desert, I had run really low on water. I was suffering with dehydration. I was exhausted, slipping into heat stroke, which is usually fatal. And the only shade that I could find was underneath my trailer. And I was pretty worried at that point that if I don't keep getting up from out of my trailer and pushing on, then I could quite easily die out here in the Gobi Desert. So I had to break my goals down. I couldn't focus on 4 days because 4 days I was in too much agony and too much pain to be able to walk 4 days through the Gobi Desert to the next water source and to the next shelter. But I could focus on 100 meters. I could visualize that. I could see 100 meters. So I got myself outside of my trailer. I strapped the trailer on. I was in a lot of pain, very dizzy. And I managed to walk for 100 meters, rested for another 5 minutes under my trailer. And just by breaking my goals down like that, I managed to make the community and live to tell the tale, fortunately. Same with Madagascar, when I caught the deadliest strain of malaria. I was only a few hours from slipping into a coma. So that was a very close call too, that I managed to just about make medical attention and get it eradicated out of my system.
Let's go. Come back. Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, my name is Harris, and my question is, when did you write your book?
What, sorry?
When did you write your book?
What do I?
When did you write your book?
Oh, I'm not getting that, sorry.
When did you write your book?
When did I write my book? I wrote my book, Mission Possible, about 1.5 years ago now. 1.5 years ago. And so I've literally, that presentation that I was just doing then was actually selling the Chinese versions of Mission Possible. So it's pretty cool to have them in China as well as the English speaker markets. But that was also a challenge. You know, I'm not very used to writing books, so you can imagine that was really difficult. And I had to break my goals down again with writing the book for sure.
Go ahead.
My question is: have you ever had an idea of crossing the river?
Crossing this Yangtze River? Yes, yeah. I have had to cross it on a few occasions because sometimes on one side of the river it's really steep, or there's landslides, or often there's cliff faces, just a big drop. So I can't walk right next to the river on the left-hand side, but if I can try to cross the river, I can follow it on the right-hand side. So there have been times that I've had to cross it, but I always use local knowledge because the Yangtze River is just so mighty. It's so big and it's so powerful. So I've had to use local knowledge and find out where I can cross the river. But in Madagascar, when I was crossing the rivers there, they weren't as big, but they had crocodiles. many crocodiles. And there were many times that I'd have to cross different rivers. And often we would have to, me and my guides, build rafts using natural resources, which mainly consisted of bamboo and bamboo leaves. And then that's how we would be able to float across to the other side of the river.
That's great. And Ash, maybe just give us a quick update on how many miles you've traveled so far, because everybody knows exactly how long the Yangtze is, but how far are you?
Sure, yeah. So I'm almost halfway through. So I'm probably about 1,007 to 1,800 miles so far. I'm about 3 months into the mission itself. I've got possibly another 6 to 7 months left. So hopefully I should complete it in under a year. But at the same time, I want to be stopping at different locations along the way, to really get the story of the locals, to get involved. I would like to try the martial arts, the kung fu here, the different extreme sports, and learn about the local way of life. So another 2,200 miles left, I would say, that I've got.
Thank you. All right, we have more questions here. Who hasn't asked one yet? You haven't asked one, right? Go ahead.
My name is Talia, and I'm asking if you have any girls in your crew, and if not, why?
No, yeah, another great question. I have had girls on my trip, not on this one yet, but I've had a girl join me in Madagascar. She was actually a photographer, and she was really hardcore. She was very good, and she kept up with us all. She was just as tough. She was just as strong, and I would love her to join me on the Yangtze expedition. I don't know why no girls have joined me on this mission, Yangtze, but they are more than welcome to.
Great question.
My question is, how did your supplies last?
How did I survive which?
No, how did your supplies last?
I want to stand up.
My question is, how did your supplies last you?
How long did the supplies last me? Got ya. The supply. Well, it's funny. Because I took supplies. I took ration packs, but my two guides who joined me, because they said that one of them doesn't want to come alone. There's got to be 3 of us and a horse. Well, I said, make sure you bring food. They brought food, but they didn't bring enough food. So they ended up having my ration packs, and then we all ran out of food. And we probably went a full day without food. But fortunately, we came across some locals and picked up some more supplies, which was pretty much yak, cheese, and yogurt.
My name is Jada, and my question is, did your mom and dad want you to do this?
Good question. Probably not. Probably not. But I guess they see how much training I put into it, how much preparation. So they know that I never go into an expedition reckless. And it's like with anything you do in life, you've got to visualize, you've got to prepare, you've got to prepare get ready for the bad times as well. It's not all going to be glitz and glamour. There are going to be struggles. There are going to be tough times. And I was trying to train my mind and my body to overcome these tough times. When I'm down, get back up and keep pushing forward no matter what. And I guess my mum and dad saw the preparation and the training and the experience as well, building up those track habits, climbing the ladder like we do in any career line or any industry, and thought or felt more confident with me undertaking each mission. So I made them feel a little bit more comfortable.
Great question.
My name is Tim Bay, and my question is, how long did it take for you to train for your trip?
How long did it take for me to do this trip?
So how long did it take you to train?
To train.
To what, sorry?
How long did it take you to train, Ash? How long did you
to train? Got you. Oh, well, to prepare for this expedition, it was probably about 2 years. 2 years, I would say. The training is probably the easier bit. It's the logistics around getting an expedition like this off the ground. And again, you know, I know I've said this a few times now, but it is a case of, instead of visualizing the end goal, looking at me at the source, it's important for me to break it down, you know, and make it easy for myself, make it manageable, and tick off each section step by step. So there was the training physically, there was the training mentally, but there was also the preparation and logistics around arranging guides, arranging a film crew, organizing a potential book tour, organizing to get the visa and permits to access the source, to make it interactive. So all of that, all in all, took about 2 years to plan.
Does anybody have any questions also about, you know, about China, about the Yangtze, about this particular mission too? Because that part of his mission is to teach people about different parts of the world, right? Question down there? What's your name? No?
My name is Cecilia, and my question is, what's the weather and what place did you have?
What's the weather?
Yes.
Yes. What's the weather and what clothes did you pack for it?
Got you. Great question. The weather is very mixed here in China, you know, because it's such a big country, and because the altitude changes so dramatically. In the west of China, at about 3,000 to 4,000 meters, currently right now it's minus 25 to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Even in a major city in Yushu up in the mountains, it's currently minus 30. So it's very cold, it's very windy, it's very snowy. But because I'm so far down south, I'm actually in about 18 degrees Celsius. It's very tropical. There's cactus, there's banana trees, there's rice paddy fields. And the further east I go, it should get warmer. I'm about to encounter the winter season right now. But because of the altitude that I'm at, which is a lot lower than I was at, it should be a lot warmer than where Yushu, one of the cities at 3,000 plus meters in 30 degrees Celsius is. So I think that's the coldest I faced. And now I look forward to a little bit of warmth.
And guys, just so you know, negative 30 degrees Celsius, it's almost about negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit. This is very, very, very cold. Who hasn't had a question yet? Anybody else who hasn't asked one yet? Go ahead.
My name is Colette. I'm 10 years old, and my question is, why did you do this?
Again?
Why did you do this?
Why did I do this? Good question. Well, I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. It first started of me in school. I then went on to college. I was then unsure with what direction I wanted to take. I was a little bit confused as to what career line I wanted to pursue. But then I found that I'm very physical. I always like learning through practical experiences. And so I started to work as a lifeguard whilst I was studying to save up the pennies. And I guess the first adventure started when I didn't have any money. You know, I literally just bought a cheap bicycle for about $10 US and cycled across Cambodia and Vietnam with nothing, literally nothing, no phone, no map. No puncture repair kit, no pump. And I think that was possibly the catalyst. You know, I realized that we as humans are more capable than we think. And I really wanted to take on more and more adventures, from learning how to survive in the jungle with the Burmese hill tribe, from doing Muay Thai, from teaching people how to scuba dive. And then, of course, to try to become the first person to walk across Mongolia. And I guess I'm passionate about travel, curious about the world. I love meeting new people. I love exploring new cultures. And by doing these expeditions, especially by foot, you really get an understanding for that country. You meet so many people. You see, you know, what a big and beautiful world it really is. People say it's a small world. That's not true. It's very big, and there's still lots out there to see, discover, and explore.
That's a great question. Who else hasn't asked a question yet?
My name is Justin, and I'm 11 years old. And my question is, What was the view like?
What was the?
View like?
What does it feel like?
What was the view like?
Oh, the view.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. It's breaking up on my side, so I sort of get the first bit of the question, but then the second bit just collapses on me. Got you. The views are beautiful, really stunning. You know, the mountains are big, the wilderness is vast. You know, the locals are living extreme lives out here. They'll wake up at 4 a.m. They'll get out at minus 20 degrees Celsius to work with their yaks. But then you look around at where they're working and it's just stunning terrain. It's very remote. It's very isolated. It's very extreme. But it's probably one of the most beautiful places I've seen. And the Yangtze takes these big bends, big 180 degree bends. And it's just unbelievable.
And we'll continue to be doing more and more articles. So as Ash sees some of those views and hopefully gets some great photos, we'll be publishing them so you guys can see all year long for the next 7 or 8 months or however long it takes, Ash.
Definitely.
My name is Zoel. I'm 11 years old. My question is, do you have any plans for adventures after you reach the end of the river?
Do I have any transport?
No, do you have any plans for adventures after you reach the end of the river?
Got you. Yes, I do. I think this will be the longest one. I think a year is very big, but there are still plans for just as extreme expeditions, but shorter. I can't say what they are just yet, unfortunately. Maybe potential world firsts. But yeah, no, I'm excited for them. I'm always sort of planning ahead. So yeah, big plans for more adventures.
And we'll keep covering that. We actually wrote about the Madagascar trip a couple of years ago. So I think, you know, as long as he's taking these brand adventures, we're going to keep promoting them and doing our best to support it. Go ahead.
Appreciate that.
My name is Princeton, and my question is, were there any places that were no people there, so you have to build your own shelter?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, fortunately, I was taught at the age of 19 how to build shelters in the jungle. And I actually put that into practice when I was in Madagascar. We went over a week, 7-8 days without seeing any locals, and we would have to survive in the jungle. Fortunately, the jungle can be a difficult place for someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but for someone who knows what they're looking for, the jungle is home for many. You know, there's a lot of fruit, vegetation that you can eat. There's a lot of wildlife that you can hunt, and there's a lot of resources for you to be able to build shelters. And so in Madagascar, me and my guide would often build rafts to cross the rivers or shelters where we could sleep under at night.
Ask a question. Anybody else who hasn't asked one yet? Maybe we'll come back to a few other folks. But want to ask one? If they want to ask one? All right, let's ask a few more here. Go ahead. Say your name again.
My name is Anthony, and what kind of wildlife did you encounter on this trip?
On this trip, I've encountered so far antelope, wild yak, bears, wolves. I've seen a lot of insects that I've been unsure what they are actually surviving in extreme habitats. So, you know, maybe there are even new species out there that haven't been listed yet, which is pretty beautiful. But at the same time, it's very extreme there. So I haven't seen so far as much wildlife up on the Tibetan plateau of Mission Yangtze as I did see, for example, in Madagascar. In Madagascar, you know, 80% of all plant life and wildlife found on the island is found nowhere else in the world. That's how unique its biodiversity is.
My name's Erica, and I want to know what's in your bag.
Hold on a second. Let me make sure he can see you. I'm not even sure he can see you in the corner there. But Erica, say it nice and loud.
My name's Erica, and I want to know what's in your bag. Like, what do you carry with you?
Sure, good question. I carry a lot of different clothes to protect me in the cold environments, to protect me in the hot environments. I carry rations. I carry different types of food and snacks. I have a tent with me, a stormproof tent. I had a sleeping bag that went down to minus 23 degrees Celsius, a sleeping mat. I have this water to go bottle. So this has got pretty much a built-in filter. So I can just get the water straight from the Yangtze River. And this filters it, making it drinkable, making it fresh water. I had satellite phones. So you can see here, this helped me for a lot of scenarios, especially with the police incidents. You know, I can just call in, no signal. It just goes straight up to the satellite, passed to my team based in Beijing. And this has been a lifesaver on many occasions, especially when my film crew needed pickup and when I needed to get my guide to safer environments. I carry my own film kit as well. You can see here, this is a GoPro. And so I'm self-filming for the times that I don't have a camera crew with me. And this has caught all sorts. This is almost caught dog attacks. It's caught the bear footprints. It's caught me being sick because of the food that I ate the day before. So altogether, the backpack was about 35 kilograms with all of this kit combined. I also had a drone. So I was flying that, getting footage, getting photos. But now I've got rid of a lot of kit and I need to travel a lot lighter.
And guys, 35 kilograms is about 77 pounds. So it's like carrying a small, like a kid around with him everywhere he goes. Go ahead, right there in the center.
My name is Tristan, and one of my questions is: has anyone got seriously hurt on the trip, like probably near dying?
Yes, yeah, I would say Suzanne, my photographer in Madagascar. We had a nighttime river crossing in the cyclone season, and we just had the head torches on trying to get to the other side of this river before the big rainstorm hit and filled that river even more. And we were worried. We formed a human chain, and unfortunately she did lose her footing. And this river was so loud that we would have to shout to hear each other's voices. And she was in the grasp of mine and my guide's hands. And that at that point, that was terrifying because it was someone else's life on my expedition. And I thought, you know, if we let her go now, she's gone. Not only is it nighttime, and obviously it's a big river. She's wearing a rucksack. It's full of boulders, but there's also crocodiles further down. So yeah, I would probably say that was the most scariest time, and we just managed to get her back up and across to the other side. So fortunately, we were all safe, but it was very scary.
All right, guys, it's after 10:30. We're at Ash's, so I'm not sure what time you have to go to bed, Ash, but maybe we'll start asking a few final questions here. Does that work for you?
No problem. That's fine.
All right, let's try to get a last couple ones in here. Anybody else who hasn't asked yet? Go ahead.
My name's Rafi. My question is, why didn't you leave when your crew members got sick?
Say that again, sorry.
Why didn't you leave when your crew members got sick?
Why didn't I leave when I was sick?
When your crew members got sick.
Oh, when my crew members got sick, sorry, yeah. I did leave on one occasion when my guide got sick. I had to take him off the mountains, make sure he was safe. When he was back with his family, I went back up to the mountains to continue. And with my film crew, he was safe with the driver. And there was two of them. So it was two members of the film crew and it was one driver. And the driver was on a road that took them straight down to a lower level in altitude, straight to a city where they could receive medical attention. So there was no need for me to leave with them, which is good.
Great question. All right, that's good. No, yeah.
Let's make sure you're in the video here.
All right.
My name is Talia. I want to ask, do you think someone could break your record of walking the Yangtze River in 1 year if they don't take as much breaks as you do?
Did you hear that?
Almost. Do I think they can do it within a year?
Or she wants to know if someone if you're worried that someone might break your record to do it faster.
Got you. No, I would encourage that. I think if there can be more people to walk from source to sea, that would be really cool. I would like that. Because for me, it's not the speed, it's the first. So with these people doing it, they may be faster, but if I complete it, touch wood, I'll be the first, and that's the record for me that I want to try to achieve. But yeah, I would encourage and help people plan their logistics if they wanted to do it again.
How cool is that, guys? From source to sea. So he started all the way up where the beginning of the river, high in the mountains. He's going all the way down to the Pacific Ocean. Right, that's the whole length of the river. Yeah. As the map. We got a world map behind you, Ash. So we're
oh, excellent. Excellent.
Go ahead.
When did you discover that you would like to travel?
Yeah, good question. I would say I decided at probably the age of 16 or 17. I first wanted to find a job that I could travel with. I was looking at maybe skiing instructor, and then I was looking at maybe scuba diving instructor. And I thought, how can I do this? And my dad helped me come up with a plan. We broke our goals down yet again. And then it was all of a sudden going from working or training as a ski instructor and scuba diver to just, why don't you travel first and then do the scuba diving? So that's when travel came sort of set in my mind, probably the age of 16, 17. So only a good few years older than you guys, when I finished high school and started the first year of college.
Great question. And then
My name is Emily, and I want to know how you spoke to people who didn't speak English.
How I communicate with people who don't speak English, was that?
Yes.
Really good question, because that is very tough. It is very difficult. In Mongolia, I would find that I would use a lot of hand gestures. So if there was a bear, I would do bear impressions. If there was a wolf, I would do howling impressions. But I would also write in the sand in the Gobi Desert, so that the Mongolians could see the pictures that I'm drawing. But fortunately, with this China expedition, I'm actually learning Mandarin. So I'm learning the local language, although very difficult, and it would take me a good few years to learn it. I can understand the basics enough to have very small basic conversations, which really helps so much. So I will continue to practice.
that's a great question. All right, let's go ahead.
My name is Aiden again, and I want to know how the animals affect you.
How the animals are
Affect you.
That's breaking up again.
Aiden wanted to know, how do the animals affect you?
Got you. So we would have to be very careful, especially in the Tibetan plateau, with the animals, because the bears were coming off the mountain peaks because it's getting too cold for them now to be hunting on the peaks because it's close to winter. So they come down off the peaks to a warmer environment, and of course they're looking for food. They need to do all the hunting they can to get all the calories inside them before they go into hibernation for the winter. And so my biggest concern was the bears coming off the mountains looking for food. They wouldn't hesitate, look, there's Ash and his guide, get some calories up him before he goes into hibernation. So that's what I was most scared of. And there were attacks to humans by bears, although they do tend to leave you alone, on occasions. If I walked at night, I would have to blow my whistle, because the biggest attacks from bears come from when you scare them, when you approach them. And they don't attack you always because they're hungry. They attack you because they're scared. So if I blow the whistle, give them plenty of notice, I was hoping that they would run off into the forest, and we could continue.
You don't deal with bears too often here in New York City, do you? All right, let's get a team more here. Go ahead.
My name is Harris, and my question is, did you ever think about boating the river?
Did I ever think about boating the river? I didn't. I know it has been done before, and I'm actually carrying a little tracking device which is built into this phone here. So this actually sends off GPS coordinates to the satellite, to my team in China and to my team in the UK. And actually to you guys effectively, you know, on my website, there's a tracker and you can follow my progress. That's how you guys are staying up to date. And it also clocks where you are, of course, but also the speed that you're doing. And so if I was all of a sudden doing 10, 15 miles an hour, my team would question whether I'm walking or not. So I've got to be very careful, otherwise they'll catch me.
My name is Tristan, and did you ever have to like hand fight like an animal, like one of the animals that you passed?
I would say the closest I've come to physically fighting an animal off was probably the Tibetan Mastiffs recently on this trip, about a month and a half ago now. Normally they have a big chain around their neck and they have a stake in the ground because they protect the gurs. You know, they keep the wolves and the bears away, and they fight wolves. They've been known to kill wolves. But this Tibetan Mastiff was off its chain and it came running up to me with its buddy. And I had to pretend that I had rocks in my hand. I had to pretend to throw because they flinched. They know that humans throw rocks. Until I did actually have to physically pick up a rock because they got too close trying to attack me. And I had to physically throw rocks at them and do everything that I could do to keep these big furry dogs at bay. I went on for about 2 minutes and I was exhausted after, very exhausted. But luckily, I left with no injuries sustained and no bites.
I got a really important one.
Yeah.
What was the highest mountain you climbed?
Oh, the highest mountain. I would say the highest that I've ever been is just over 5,100 meters, which is actually where the source of the Yangtze is. It's actually one of the highest sources of a river in the world. And then after that, in terms of a mountain peak, I was summiting many peaks and climbing many mountain passes. Sometimes the river would block access to my route, to my walking way, so that I would have to climb mountains potentially just under 5,000 meters, I would say. The 5,000 meter mark is probably the highest mountain that I've had to climb.
And guys, that's higher than any mountain in the continental United States. Other than Alaska, that's higher than any peak in any part of this country. Let's start maybe wrapping up here. Let's get put you guys in the back, and then we'll come up to the front again. I think you're in the video. Go ahead.
My name is Abigail, and my question was, did you ever help to do chores with the host family?
Did I ever have to, what, sorry?
Did you ever, go ahead.
Did you ever help to do chores when you were staying with host families?
I got the host. I got the start at the end, but I didn't get the middle actually.
She wanted to know if you ever help around with chores when you're when you're staying with the host families.
Great question. And yes, I always try to be really polite. And the locals are so hospitable. There was actually one time where I saw a girl, 14 years of age, with a family, and she was outside working at 4 a.m. at 4,000 meters, herding yak poo, so she could dry it out to make a fire. And I thought, wow, you know, she's 14 years of age out there in the pitch black. There are wolves. She's herding the yak. She's working hard. So I went out there and I helped her milk the yak, spread the poo for the fire. And she was just a real solid worker, very hard worker, and such a young age as well. So, you know, I felt that, wow, I need to help her. But I was probably more of a burden than anything because she was so good at her work that I was probably slowing her down, but I still tried to help.
All right, let's start. Let's do one more in the back here, and then go ahead. Do both of you guys. Thank you. We'll do one and then the next. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joel. My question is, what was your most difficult part of all the journeys?
Of all of these adventures, the most difficult part. Good question. Good question. I would say what's been difficult is liaising with the people who've been joining me. That's been very tough. Sometimes they're nervous or they're scared of certain scenarios and potentially jeopardize the expedition. I would say the Gobi Desert was a very difficult stage. You know, trying to get out of the Gobi to my next water source was probably one of the toughest challenges I've ever faced in life, full stop. Hacking through the jungle as well, when you've got leeches that suck your blood falling down your top, spiders biting you, you're wet but you're hot, and you're only covering maybe 1.5 miles a day or 3 kilometers in a whole 12 days walking. So there's been many, many difficult ones. I probably couldn't pick one specific one, but I would say those three are the top three.
My name is Kristen, and my question is, did you ever have to swim in the river?
Do I ever have to
Swim in the river.
swim in the river? I've had to swim across a tributary. I've had to swim across a tributary that's pretty big that was branching into the Yangtze River. So I effectively had to strip down with my guide. We had to make sure that we took the kit to the other side of the river first, and then we had to actually drag Castor Troy, the horse, through the river as well. It's pretty scary, but the tributary wasn't too fast flowing, so we were pretty confident that we could make it. But it was very cold because it was glacial waters coming straight up from the mountains.
All right, guys, let's do about another 5 more minutes, and then let's let Ash go to sleep, huh? Because it's been sure needs a lot of journey. Let's ask a few more questions up here. Why don't you go ahead?
I'm Tristan again, and my other question is: out of all of your adventures, what was your most favorite adventure?
Oh, another really good question. You guys have got ace questions. My number one top adventure. I'm gonna have to say all of them for all different reasons. Because the people, I always say the people can make or break an expedition. You know, if they're miserable or moody or nasty to you, you know, you're gonna have a difficult time. But if they're friendly, they're welcoming, they feed you, they invite you and show you their culture, then that makes the adventure more enjoyable. And fortunately, I've had hospitality in every country that I've been to. You know, that's made the adventure even better. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say all of them. The Vietnam, the Thailand, the Burma, the Mongolia, Madagascar, and China trips stand out the most as the top 3, though, yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll have one last one, maybe 2 more questions here. Go ahead.
My name is Talia, and I want to ask, why do you choose the Amazon or the Nile River?
Another good question. I didn't choose the Amazon or the Nile because they've actually already been walked. The Amazon was walked in 2010, I believe. It took him 2.5 years to walk from source to sea. The Nile was almost completed, for a 400-mile flight that he had to take because of a war zone. And for me, everyone knows quite a lot about Africa and the Nile, Brazil and the Amazon. These are very famous. What really hooked me about the Yangtze is it was very mysterious. You know, no one really talks about the Yangtze, but it's only slightly smaller than the Amazon and the Nile by probably 100 to 200 miles, which, to put things into perspective, that's probably only an extra week to 2 weeks maximum of walking, which isn't anything compared to over 365 days. So for me, the interactivity struck a chord. I really show off the beauty of China, and especially the west side, no one really gets to see, and very rarely any Westerner for sure. So it was the diversity of China that really hooked me in, and it was the fact that no one's done it before.
Well, Ashley, we've loved learning about the Yangtze, learning about China, so thank you for undertaking that mission. And by the way, I just want to add, there's some beautiful rivers around here. We've got the Hudson, we have the East River. So anytime you want to come to visit us, you can go walk along the rivers with you.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's make it happen.
Let's have some
No, thank.
Go ahead, Abigail. Right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She asked if your team members ever wanted to quit.
Have my team members ever wanted to quit?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Many of them. Some asked me if we could just take a motorbike. There was one guy where it was just so wet and rainy. He pretty much said, nah, I'm not liking this, Ash. And, the next road we came to, he jumped in a car and left me. Left me and the other guy. He wasn't having any of it. It was wet, cold, miserable. And he said, this isn't fun at all. I'm leaving. So, yeah, people have quit on me before now as well.
Okay, let's get one final question and then let Ash go to. We'll do two final ones, all right? How about you guys? And the last two questions. Go ahead.
Talia, you want to ask your question one more time?
My name is Talia. My question is, where did you use the bathroom?
Yeah. Well, when you're out here in the wilderness, you just use the bathroom like any other animal would use in the wilderness. You just gotta go sometimes.
All right, Talia. And then you got your last question over here.
What is the hardest trip you've ever went on so far?
The hardest trip that I've ever gone on so far. I would say the most difficult trip to plan so far is definitely this China trip. Very tough to get it off the ground. And the most difficult physically, very difficult question. The jungles in North Madagascar were really tough. The desert in Mongolia, again, different environments, different altitudes, different elements. And again, this one, being sub-zero temperatures. So again, I would say Mongolia, Madagascar, and China, all three have been very, very equal up to now, very equal. But I've still got another 6-7 months left in China, so I'll answer that properly at the end of this one, because it could be China's #1 spot.
All right, guys. So everybody want to give a round of applause for Ash? Ash, thank you for your time. We can't wait to follow along the rest of the journey. When do you begin walking again?
I start it again. I go back down to the Yangtze River in probably a week and a half's time. So I'm wrapping up with everything here, concentrating on a lot of business, getting some more fat in my body because I've lost a lot of weight, and getting more kit organized, ready for this next section. But I will keep you posted. I might even fire you guys questions. I feel I've had a lot of questions. I might send questions to you guys that I can think of for you guys to answer. But yes, I can send you more photos. Specifically, I've had lots of great questions there, so that gives me an idea of what you guys are looking for. So I'll be sure to get more video content, more voice memos, and especially more drone footage. There was a guy who had questions about the views, so I will get you more drone footage to show you the wilderness of China in the far wild west of this country.
Well, we'll keep sending the questions. We'll keep reading along. And Ash, best of luck. Happy holidays to you. And happy weekend. Thank you again from New York City.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care now. Bye.